I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is joining us today from Washington, D.C., Dr. Andrew Ciupek, who is a clinical research coordinator and a clinical trials navigator, and he's part of the Lung Cancer Alliance, and they're kind enough to join us for our program every year, and we thank him for taking the trip all the way to New York. So let's welcome Dr. Ciupek, please.
Thank you. So I'm really excited. I'm going to take a little different approach than some of the other people did. Now since we're a patient support group, I'm going to talk about an exciting new program that we have just launched through our alliance, and that's called LUNGMATCH, and it's aimed at helping patients navigate clinical trials and treatments. So first of all, so that everyone knows, who are we? We're Lung Cancer Alliance, and we focus on lung cancer, and that means saving lives, advancing research, and empowering people to help with this problem. We've existed for over 20 years, and we're currently located in the Washington, D.C. area. And we want to work on our goals through three main areas. We want to advance research to better understand lung cancer and treatments. We want to facilitate access to high-quality care through our policy work and through patient support services that we offer to patients. And lastly, just framing the national conversation. We're breaking the stigma surrounding lung cancer, and also talking and amplifying the voice of the community so that more people will care about lung cancer. So I want to start today just by asking you guys, many of you may have participated in clinical trials, some people may have been thinking about or know people who have gone through it, and I want to ask you guys, what do you think are the biggest barriers to participating in clinical trials to you? And I just have a few choices if you still have your clickers available. They have understanding the clinical trial process, searching for and selecting clinical trial options, anxiety surrounding trials, travel or time commitments, or maybe you just don't see any barriers. And I'm interested in your guys' responses because this is a problem we've thought about too with Lung Cancer Alliance. So I'll just give a second for people to kind of get their thoughts in. Okay. So it looks like it's across the board. It looks like a lot of people are saying understanding the clinical trial process. That's perfectly understandable. There's a lot of confusing things about the process, the terms people use when you should join a trial. A lot of people also say travel and time commitments. I mean, especially if a clinical trial site isn't near you or taking the time to go to extra visits, that can be a real problem. And there's also some of you that say you don't see any barriers, and that's great. But we want to take all that into account and ask for both people that see these kind of problems and people that are just looking, who don't see the barriers and want to enhance their ability to look for clinical trials. What can we do to help all of you out as patients? And like many of you mentioned, when you're considering a clinical trial, you have this first question: is a clinical trial even for me? Some of you said that anxiety about clinical trials is a problem to participating in them. Maybe that's because you hear the word experimental, or maybe that's because you're worried about switching from standard care. And a lot of that the first resource for a lot of this is your treatment team, who can steer you in a lot of right directions. But what if you're trying to do research on your own and you want to find out things to be more informed when you go to your treatment team? That can be difficult to figure out when the right time is for that and what to even look for. And once you've made the decision to pursue a clinical trial, you ask that next question, which is the right one for me? And again, your treatment team, especially at a place like NYU and these other academic centers, can really give you a lot of advice and steer you in the right direction for talking through clinical trials. But if you wanted to do research on your own, or you wanted to become informed before you came to your visits, you probably would go to somewhere like a site like clinicaltrials.gov, which is a search engine for clinical trials. Now, even if you use all the options that are available to you, like you see here, we've done a search for non-small cell lung cancer. It's in stage 4, and we're looking just for trials in the New York area. You can see you get about 76 results. It's a lot of trials to search through, especially if you're not sure how to weigh them against each other, or you don't have all the information that you can determine whether a trial is a good choice for you. And a great example of that is, like Dr. Schor mentioned, targeted therapy is really coming into its own in lung cancer as well as other cancers. And there's a lot of studies out there looking at how we can target different changes in your personal tumors, either genetically or changes in proteins. But when you look at these trials, you can see that they have inclusion criteria that ask for people with certain mutations. And if that's particularly something that, not like EGFR or ALK, that you're normally tested for as part of your care, or you don't know how to get that information, you may not even be able to consider that as an option for a trial. So what we wanted to do at Lung Cancer Alliance is take all these concerns and try to make a program that can make it easier for you guys as patients to talk to your clinical treatment teams about trials and go through this process easier with less time commitment. And we came up with the LUNGMATCH program. So the LUNGMATCH program basically works through three main areas. The first is educational material that we have available both online or in paper format. And that's basically just dealing with that problem that a lot of you mentioned, not fully understanding the clinical trial process. Becoming more informed, dealing with some of the anxiety by getting facts and things about what happens on clinical trials. We've also developed electronic and online resources to make that searching process easier for you. How can you narrow down those 76 options you got to ones that are more relevant for you? And how can you reduce the amount of time it takes to do that research? Because you've got a lot to juggle in your life with your treatment, family, and other things you want to do. And last but not least, a part of our program is personalized care. We wanted to have someone that you could talk to ask questions that are personal to your particular disease and your case to get the help that you needed. And I just want to take some time in this presentation to talk a little bit about the components we have under each of these areas. So the first I talked about is our educational materials. And these are aimed at better understanding trials. And what I'm showing here is this is a pamphlet that we've developed called Lung Cancer Clinical Trials, a Guide for the Patient. And this is available both online and in paper format that we hand out to clinics. And it contains a lot of that basic information. What is a clinical trial? What can you expect while you're on it? And even what types of clinical trials there are, and things you can ask your treatment team, or things you should be considering when you're trying to narrow down clinical trial options for yourself. And we think this is a really great resource for someone who's starting and doesn't know a lot about clinical trials, or maybe someone who's been looking at clinical trials and wants to do more research but doesn't know how to enhance and get more information. So we think this is just a great starting point for people at all stages of their clinical trial search. Also, we wanted to take the clinical trial search process and make it so that you got more relevant results and that you could get results in a quicker way. And to do that, we partnered with a company called ANTIDOTE to develop a clinical trial search tool. And what I'm showing here is this is available on our Lung Cancer Alliance website, and I'll give all the information at the end of the presentation. But when you go to our website, you can see this box at the top, which says, "Let's find cures together." And basically, this tool just asks some basic information about yourself. It asks things like, what type of lung cancer do you have? Non-small cell versus small cell. How old are you? Where are you living currently? And how far are you willing to travel to go to a clinical trial site? And so using that basic information, the tool already pulls a list of personalized clinical trial results for you, and then attempts to narrow that further by asking you a series of questions. And what you can see here is that if you look in the box at the bottom, the tool has already found about 7 trials fitting the criteria that the person started the search with. So that's a lot better than 76 already. But it asks additional questions to try to get personalized information about you. Like for instance, it's asking here, have you ever had any brain metastasis? If you say yes or no, it'll actually filter the clinical trial searches further to clinical trials that fit your case. And if you don't know the answer to a question or you don't want to answer a question, you can just click skip, and the program will intelligently decide what's the next question to ask you. And at the end, you get a really narrow list of personalized clinical trial options that may be good options for you. And what you can see here is this particular example searcher did, a person got back 5 trials within 20 miles of them. And you can see there's a lot of useful information here. You get trials, their titles, and you get summary descriptions of the trials. But you also get really important information at a glance, like how far away is the closest site you have to go to this trial. You can see the first one, there's a site less than 5 miles away from this person. And the bottom one, there's the closest site is 5 miles away. So already you're getting a lot of relevant information. And you can take these lists and you can use this as a tool to bring to your treatment team and have that discussion about what they think are good options for you, and use this to figure out what your next step is. And if you click on any of these trials, you'll get a description that summarizes information like what the trial is going to do, what it entails, and basically how to contact people, so that if your treatment team and you decide it's a great option together, who do you talk to get on that trial? But ANTIDOTE wanted to take this a step further and improve the clinical trial descriptions to make it more patient-friendly and more useful to you. And what they did is they added the ability for investigators in clinical trial sites to enhance their study page. And what I mean by that is when an investigator or a clinical trial site or a sponsor goes in and enhances the page, they add a lot of really plain language, patient-friendly information to it. You can see here examples in the upper left. They've added a real simple description of what the trial is and what it's trying to do. They've added a contact button so that you can find up-to-date, relevant contact information for different sites in the trial if you and your treatment team decide to pursue it as an option. Also, it's giving you information that you really want to know, such as what exactly is going to be done during the trial. You can see in the bottom box a list of the procedures that you might experience while you're on the clinical trial and a description of what they are. And in this top right box, you can see that this is a treatment trial, and it tells you exactly how the drug's going to be administered, And it also tells you the exact time commitment you might expect during each stage of trial. So how much time is this going to take out of your life? And also things like, are you going to have to stay overnight in the hospital or clinic? So just really by enhancing this page, it makes it a lot better to get information for you guys. And it also helps the researchers reach the patients they need to answer their questions. Because any researcher or treatment team that goes in and enhances a page, their results appear higher in the search so that you can tell right away which ones are enhanced and not. So it's a real kind of a two-way street that's really beneficial to both people. So this is kind of as Dr. Cho and other people mentioned earlier, we're really in the age of precision medicine now, and many of you have probably been on target therapy or had molecular profiling done to your tumor. And we thought about this, and as more and more clinical trials are asking for molecular profiling information, we wanted to have a way to make it really easy for both patients and for their treatment teams to get information beyond just maybe some of the things that are commonly tested for, like EGFR out, or to allow patients that may not live near a big academic medical center like NYU, who may not have the same access to molecular analysis, to get molecular profiles of their tumors. And so you guys are one of the first people to hear about this, and we're launching this program later this month. And this is a partnership with a company called Prothera, who offers concierge molecular testing. Basically, what I mean by that is that when Lung Cancer Alliance can put, if you want to get more information about the molecular profile of your tumor, Lung Cancer Alliance can put you in contact with Prothera, and they'll work with your treatment team to have biopsies or tissue samples taken that are needed to perform multi-omic, which means just different types of analysis, protein analysis, DNA analysis of your tumor, and they'll send these samples to trial sites, to labs that they work with in order to get that done. This will make a comprehensive molecular profile of your personal tumor. And then on top of that, Prothera has developed a software package that they'll take the molecular profile and run it through a program which will match it to certain clinical trial and treatment options that it think is relevant based on your particular molecular profile. This will then be reviewed by an expert medical panel of doctors and clinicians at Prothera who will narrow down these results even further, and this will generate a personalized report. And what this report basically does is just summarize the molecular profile of your tumor and some of those trial and treatment options. And this will be given to your treatment team and is really a tool for the both of you to have a discussion about these clinical trials and whether they might be good options for you. So we see this as a really exciting way just to get more information into the hands of you and your treatment team so you can make more decisions and consider more clinical trial options. And all these support services are really nice, but sometimes you just want to ask a question and you can't find the answer anywhere. You just want to talk to someone about your personal case. So we wanted to have that available too, and that's our clinical trial matching service. Anyone, a patient or a loved one, can call into Lung Cancer Alliance and talk to one of our clinical trial specialists. These are people who know a lot about the clinical trial process. They're familiar with sorting through clinical trial information, and you can basically have them help you in any way you want. They can help you perform a search for clinical trials from beginning to end and offer you advice if you're just starting out, or if you've looked at a lot of clinical trial options and you're trying just to take your search to the next level, they can answer specific questions and find out new things for you. And this will basically be providing you with information that you can bring to your treatment team. And there's a lot of time involved in research for clinical trials as well. So for instance, we had someone call us earlier this month who wanted to have more information about certain trials to bring to her treatment team, but she had a lot of time commitments between her family and her treatment in preparing for her next visit. We were able to take information from her and do some of that research for her and give her a list of trials to take back to her treatment team. So even if it's just taking the time out of doing the clinical trial research process, we can help you with that. We're just here for you with the clinical trial matching service to help you in any way you need. And I mean, it's nice to talk to a specialist, but we all just really want to talk to someone who can understand maybe what we're going through a little better than that. And that's why coming soon, we really want to add to this program the idea of clinical trial buddies. And what a clinical trial buddy is as we go through and help match people with clinical trials, we're going to identify some great patient advocates and people who want to talk to other people who are going through an experience similar to them. So let's say you're looking at a particular type of treatment options and you want to talk to someone who's been through a similar clinical trial or who's thought about that process before. When you call into Lung Cancer Alliance, we'll help you match with someone who's gone through a similar experience, and you can talk together without us and just have conversations and get the support you need in any way you want from someone else who knows what you're going through. And we see that as a really great thing that we're able to offer. So one of the things about LUNGMATCH program is we really want to constantly improve it based on feedback. We're just launching this program now, and we want to know what you guys think about it and what you need. So if you have your clickers again, now that I've talked about some of the components of the program, I'm interested just to see what you guys in the audience think are the most helpful parts of the program. And that can be the understanding the clinical trials, the education materials we provide. The ANTIDOTE clinical trial search tool helps narrow down options. The Prothera molecular testing service to make it easier to get a profile of your tumor, or maybe talking to a clinical trial specialist or clinical trial buddies. And we're just interested in hearing what you think, because we want to know what you like. And then for your questions at the end, if you have any questions, I'd be really interested to hear feedback on what you guys think for things that we don't have in the program, for things that you think might be good additions to it, and what you need, what you would like to see as patients. So that's great. So it looks like a lot of people really like the educational materials and the clinical trials search, and we really like to hear that. So I actually have, I have just a few of the understanding clinical trial pamphlets. If any of you want to pick one up from me afterwards, you'd be interested in seeing that, and we'd be happy to send one to you if you contact us. And I'll give you at the end of the presentation the website you can go to activate the ANTIDOTE clinical trials search tool. So just to kind of sum up here, like I said, the feedback you just gave us and other things are for improving the service. And we really want this to be an essential part of the LUNGMATCH program. So just for example, when we have people call in to be matched with a clinical trial buddy or a clinical trial specialist, we don't just have that be a one-time off thing. We really want to follow up with patients. Like let's say you told us you were going for a treatment appointment and you were considering between 3 or more clinical trial options. We want to call back and follow up with you after you've had initial contact and ask, what did the discussion go like about those clinical trial options? Did you join that clinical trial? If you didn't, why not? What were some of the things that you experienced? And through that, we're going to be able to collect information about the people using our service and ask the questions, how can we make this better? Maybe we need to change some of the parts. Maybe we need to add new services. How can we improve this just to be better for you guys as patients in navigating the clinical trial process? So I just wanted to say thank you very much for listening to my talk today, and we hope that the LUNGMATCH program can be real helpful to you guys going forward. And I'll leave this up for a second. If you guys want to access more information about the LUNGMATCH program, you can go to lungmatch.org, and that's also where you can find the clinical trials search tool. And if you want to be matched with a clinical trial specialist or just talk to us more about the program, you can call the Lung Cancer Alliance helpline at the number listed there. And you can also call that for any kind of questions about lung cancer diagnosis, treatments, as well as being matched to the clinical trials. So thank you very much. And please.